Cameron Kickletter here for HGTV show coverage, and I am incredibly excited to have Susan and Chad here from Friends of Vail. You guys have such an amazing story. I've been talking to people all week long, and so I'm very excited and grateful that you're here to sit down and do this.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. So for people who don't know, can you just give like a quick overview of what Friends of Vail is?
Okay. Well, the background story, of course, we have two daughters, Jade and Vail. And in 2016, we came to Youth Nationals. Both girls showed. They were 11 and 9. And a month after leaving the show, Vail passed away extremely unexpectedly in her sleep on August 31st, 2016. And it was shortly after that we had been speaking with the guidance counselor, about Jade and Vail and, all of the friends that Vail knew were getting together for counseling. And she kept calling it the Friends of Vail. And so when we were driving Jade to school, I think one of the first days she went back after the funeral, Chad was really the one that said, I want to start a foundation in Vail's honor, and I want to call it the Friends of Vail. And so that's like how the conversation started, because we just knew what a special kid she was. And her funeral was full of kids. Afterwards, everyone was at our house. We were realizing how much impact she had on so many in her life. And it was like, we need to continue that on with her story and her spirit and her love of others. Is there anything you want to add to that?
Well, just to how the Friends of Vail started, we decided that day that we were going to start the foundation, but we had no idea what to do, right? And we were still in shock, obviously, from losing Vail, but...
just for people to know, how long after she had passed was this conversation happening?
A week.
A week?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness.
Fast.
Okay.
Because Jade stayed home from school a week, and then she was ready to get back to normal, and we had no idea. I don't think anyone does, of what goes on after a loss.
What do you do?
So, we were like, she could have stayed home a month. She could have slept in our room. We didn't care, because we just wrapped arms around her. But a week later, she's like, I'm ready to go back to school. And so on the way driving, God just laid it on my heart to, about the foundation. And I went home that night and drew the logo. And I'm not an artist by any stretch, but, it has things in there that she just was just a part of her. The butterfly, came from Scottsdale. They went into the butterfly, museum. And they're trying to catch them and hold their fingers out, and Vail's standing there, and they're just all over like Velcro. And it was just amazing, because she was just, a magnet to not only to people, but to animals and everything. She was just a very special human being.
Well, and that's my next question is, tell me about Vail. I've heard a little bit from Ashley Galloon, and the way that she describes her is just this old soul beyond her years, just so wise. So tell us a little bit about Vail.
Well, Vail was, where do you even start? She was so special, but the thing that I think struck us the most about Vail is she was a kid that was so ahead of her years intellectually. She read a lot. Like, she was a kid that had a very advanced vocabulary for her age. Like, for example, in her book, she passed away when she was 9, but what people don't realize is she wrote most of those stories when she was 6. She was in first grade. And for her to have had that imagination to come up with those stories, but not only that, when you read those stories, like the one called How to Be a Good Friend, like Vail, every kid at school thought Vail was their best friend. Like, you'd walk up to a kid and they would say, Vail is my best friend, or, are you Vail's mom? Vail is my best friend. Well, after you hear like multiple kids saying that, it's like she made every kid feel like they were her best friend, and that is a gift, that they felt that special. And so she just was a magnet. Like, kids, that didn't have friends, she would go up to them and make sure they were included. Like, in her book, she talks about, if someone's sitting by themselves, we should go up to them and ask them to come play with us. And that's the kind of kid she was. And she read beyond her years. When she passed away, she was reading 3 books at a time, like a book from the library this thick that we got like that week, and then a book on her Kindle, and then we would read with her at night, and she had another book. Like, she was just a sponge for information, but she never used it like she was better than anyone else. Like, she was that kid that would go sit and read with another kid if they were struggling and not make them feel like she was smarter than them. Right. She just had a gift that way.
Yeah, like in the 2nd grade, she got an award for being the top of her class of all the 2nd grade, and it was called the superintendent or presidential award, and so she got to go in front of the school board and be recognized. Well, she was just like, I'm gonna go. I'm marching up there, but it was because she was the kid that was, the top of her class, the top grades, didn't miss any school, and but you'd go into her classroom and she'd always be with some of the other kids that weren't so blessed, if you know what I mean. It was like she had so much humility. It was amazing. Didn't matter, to her, they were just people. And that's what was really cool about her, because I mean, she was a baby really, and she just was amazing. When it came to loving on people.
From everything I've seen, that's the sense that I've gotten. And I was on the website, and for Friends of Vail, a sentence that I read was to promote education and literacy, encourage sportsmanship, and to instill confidence in our young writers. And so, to me, obviously that comes from Vail. And so, when the decision came to really put all this together, that's what stood out. And from the things that the foundation does, that's what's come to the surface as far as the scholarships and everything else. So you've mentioned it a couple times, and I want to go ahead and talk about it. So there's Vail's Tales. So there's the book. I was flipping through this earlier, and I was already crying. So for people who don't know, and maybe you can explain this a little better than I can, but I'll show an example. Vail wrote books or stories, and so I'll let you explain how the book came about, and I'll show some examples to people.
So, like I said, she wrote many books. She had a few teachers that really encouraged her writing because she had a gift, and she knew at a young age she wanted to be an author. And so she had all these little books that were around the house. And when it came to her funeral, her teachers that had encouraged her writing, they said, we really feel like her books need to be read at the funeral. A few of them need to be read. And so we sat in the living room and started going through all of them. And the day she passed away, she had told me, Mama, I want to be an author when I grow up. And that just stuck in my head. It was like, somehow we need to get these books out for other people to share them with the world. And so we started contacting different people about finding an author, because I knew they needed to be rewritten, proper punctuation, proper spelling. She was 6 when she wrote a lot of them. So I wanted it to be a story you could read to your kids, but I also wanted it to have her version in it, because I just think it's so unique to have her handwriting, her illustrations. For example, the mermaid's story in there, that is actually one of her horse show friends, Marlea the mermaid. Marlea Recido, her family shows horses, and Marlea's mother had passed away, and so Vail and Marlea became quick friends, and Vail wrote a book about Marlea. She was the star mermaid in the book. And so anyway, we came across this author through a cousin of mine that works for CNN, and I interviewed him, and he was just the man for the job. And he said he had an illustrator that he loved to work with, and he lived in Atlanta. The illustrator lived in LA. And the three of us had never been together until after the book was published. They came to our benefit where we brought the book out, and that was when all of us were in the same room together. And the way this book came together, God had his hand in it. Just weaving it all, like the illustrations she would come up with. I have goosebumps. I mean, she would put things in there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Vail had this, or Vail did that, or that was her expression, or her hair. Like, this woman had never met her, and she captured her perfectly in the illustrations.
So what was it like the first time that you both got to hold the book and flip through it. What was that moment like for you?
It was so emotional. And, Cameron, as you know, this is such a process. And every time we would get a rewrite on a story, we would sob. I mean, we never changed a word in the rewrites. He would send it to us and we would just sob. And then the illustrator would start emailing sketches. And it was like Christmas. When I would get an email with a sketch, we couldn't open it up fast enough. And so when the book finally came together, it was just like, that was her dream. The day before she passed away, that was her dream. She told me, I want to be an author when I grow up. And it ended up being #1 in children's Christian books on Amazon. She was a #1 seller on Amazon. And that just, to us, is like, this shares her heart with the world.
Yeah. What got me was seeing her handwriting, her illustrations, and there's one in here. There's a farrier giving this one right here, which I thought that was so cute. So this must be a special one for you.
Very special for sure. Because we living on the ranch, the kids were outside watching everything that we did. And we have pictures of Vail and we'd be walking, and then all of a sudden you'd bend down, she'd just jump on your back, take your cap off your head, put it on her head, and want a piggyback ride. It's just like, it was just so amazing when she captured that was her, the way she thought about what I do, in a kid's mind, and it's just pretty special. And there's so many. Like from the part in her hair, through her ears, the way she put her hair behind her ears, like that picture right there. The illustrator couldn't have got that out of a picture, because that is just amazing, because she always did that. Her little hair parted on the side, and her ears stuck out. It's just pretty amazing. We couldn't believe all of the things that, that were brought from her to put in the book. That those guys did an amazing job.
It's so emotional and amazing. I have godchildren, so I'm going to be taking home a few of these from the horse show. But I know there's a new book coming out, so tell me a little bit about that.
So when we had the author and the illustrator in town for our benefit, they spent an entire day going through all of her books again and selecting the next 4, because as far as
so
we
this
were...
wasn't all of them?
No, there's
Not even close.
there's over 50 books that she wrote.
Oh my goodness.
And so, we have a huge stack of them. And so they came, and one day while they were there, they sat amongst all those books and read them and laughed and talked about, and I'll give a little preview to the next book because it's equally as awesome. But she had written this story called The Sleepy Zoo, and how they go to the zoo and the animals are all tired, and the author and the illustrator were sitting there and talking, and they're like, well, I wonder why the animals were tired. Well, because they were party animals and they're up all night partying, and so during the day when the kids come to the zoo, why are they all so sleepy? Like, we can't... And in the illustrations, it's like the hippo's asleep, but they have roller skates and like a party hat on, and it's like, it's just that wittiness of her stories that's like, what 6-year-old comes up with that?
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Like, you're 6. Like,
exactly. And so the next book is just as great. Like, there's 4 great stories, and after that book's published, we will keep going until there are no books left.
I hope you do.
Because
I hope there's a series of them for sure.
I think there will be. And a special story in this book to comment on is the Good Friend story. She wrote that the week she died. And to me, it is one of her most special stories because it really does encompass her personality about being a good friend. And especially here at this show, that is something that we really try to focus on with these kids. Is it's not about winning and losing here. It's about, the journey, the experience, and lifting each other up. And a quick story about her personality. You were asking earlier, one of the last things she did is there was a magazine that asked for kids to write a letter and send in a photo of their favorite memory. And like she had just shown here was top 10, like she has all these great memories. She's surfed. She chose a photo of her sister winning national champion here that year. And that's what she submitted, was her sister. And when I opened the envelope, because I had to address it and send it in, I just lost it because I was like, how selfless. Her favorite memory was, her most proud moment was her sister being national champion, not her top 10, not her doing anything else. It was her sister's picture. And I've never gotten that or that letter back from the magazine. I've tried to get it and I don't know where it went, but it was the most selfless thing I had ever seen for such a young kid to choose her sister's picture. Like, that was her most proud moment. So that's who she was. And to me, it's like, we need to keep that going. People need to understand that that's what this is about, that we lift each other up, and that's who she was.
I love that, and I cannot wait for that next book. So switching gears a little bit, I know that the scholarships are a really big piece of this, and I'm excited because I know we're going to get to capture, I think you're giving out 2 scholarships this evening. So tell me about the scholarships, how that came about.
It's just like, to follow up with the story that Susan was talking about. We feel a huge responsibility to carry on who Vail was. Never forget her, but we feel like that God has blessed us to just be the conduit. It's other people's donations that we're responsible for to go to bless other kids for educational purposes. And so that's how the scholarships first came, is how could we impact the horse business that we're involved in, and some of the things we're not involved in. We have endowments at our high school that we've donated through the Friends of Vail. We do other things, not just at the horse show, but as we did it, there were so many people that wanted to be a part of it, that send their money in and donated to the Friends of Vail, and we pray about it all the time for us to do the right thing with it and have the right people. So when we, as the scholarships are given out, we pray about the classes and then pick the classes. And then we pray about the individuals in the class, that God lead us to the right person. And then we randomly pick everything. The classes are randomly picked. The kids are randomly picked. All they have to do is go through that gate and show their horse. And it's always the right person. We've heard story after story after story, and we get the blessing, but it's in Vail's name, but it's awesome for us, but it's really the people who donate to the Friends of Vail. And we want to never forget them, because we believe that, through their generosity that we're able to do what we do. And so we feel a huge responsibility. And so we always do the right thing. If it's that person, it doesn't matter if they're come from the wealthiest family in this horse show, or they had to, get a second mortgage to come show. It doesn't matter. It's not up to us. It's up to God. And so that person gets the check. And so we do not sway from that at all, because we do not want to carry that burden on us, right? And we pray about a lot about how to continue to grow. We've had so many awesome benefits in our little town, and the people in our town come and donate money. We have an auction. In the last auction, we raised just south of $100,000 in a little town we live in one night. Had dinner and people donate things, and we just had an auction, and it was awesome. But it's just pretty amazing how that God works, and just the right people and the right times, because we have story after story after story to prove that.
I can imagine. And I was saying, I spoke with Ashley again earlier, and I was talking to you a little bit about this, that you say it doesn't matter who gets it, whatever spectrum you may be on, whoever gets it gets it. And I was saying to her that I think that's really incredible, because while the money and the scholarship I think is invaluable for many, I think being involved in something like this, and just you never know how that might affect someone. Right. Somebody with money might get that and choose to come back and donate even more to it. And so you never know that kind of cyclical effect that it may have.
You're exactly right. We had an individual that won a scholarship. We presented it just like we do every other one. Few months later, we get that donation back, plus more donations from his family to thank us for that, but to, have Friends of Vail work harder for someone who really needed or needed it more. And that's pretty awesome, because exactly what you're saying. And so it's just, You know, it's amazing. And this industry and, you know, people in general have just been so amazing with their generosity through the Friends of Vail. And so we do everything we possibly can to, you know, to just give it away, like give it away to you know, anything educational and bless kids' lives. So that's what Vail would have done. I would give her money, give her $1. It's like, where's your dollar? I gave it to somebody else. You know, she did that kind of stuff all the time. We would go, she loved softball, and Jade was in one sport, you know, and it's just like families. One takes one takes the other. Well, I always loved the softball, so I would go with Vail, and we'd stop at the convenience store, the gas station. Can we stop at the gas station? She wanted some candy or something, and of course I would always go. But she never once bought just her something. It was always Jade wasn't with us. We had to get Jade something as well. It's just who she was. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I love that. You were going to say something. Do you remember what you were going to say?
He was saying about the family that gave back, but, you know, you had talked about, you know, how it's always the right kid that gets it. And, you know, we physically have numbers or names in a hat when the class is going in. Like, we don't draw the child until that class is in the ring and we know they're all staying in.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. So this might be a great point. If you want to go through the process, like say for tonight, like just walk me through the process, because we're going to get to capture it, but I'd love to hear what that whole thing looks like.
Well, the process for us starts at home, because what we've tried to do is hit every age division and every, you know, several disciplines. So what we try to do is put the disciplines, the age divisions, half Arab purebred into a hat, and then we draw. And so it's a combination of, like, today we give one in purebred Western 15 to 18. We gave one in, I think it was walk trot, hunter, 10 and under. So, you know, we try to draw the classes so we're not doubling up in, you know, the same age division, and so we do that first. And then when we come here, like, we have a scholarship this afternoon, second class. We will go get all the names that are in the class, whether it's a section or the final, and we will cut them up and we put them in a hat. And we draw our kid that wins, and then we draw back up. And we look for them in the warm-up pen. Like, it's kind of last minute, because you got to make sure they show up, and because you don't want to write the name on the check and then the kid isn't there. So we wait until we see them go in the gate, usually until they reverse, and we're like, okay, you know, this child is who's in, they're not leaving. That's when we write the name on the check, because, you know, we feel like they have to participate. They can't just quit, or they don't have to win, but they just have to put themselves out there and try and work hard. And sometimes it's the kid that wins, but a lot of times it's a kid that gets the gate, you know.
But it's random.
It's totally random. Yeah. And the first child that won the scholarship here had never heard Vail's story until the lineup, and when she came up to us, that she and her handler were crying because she's a cancer survivor, and she's a 9-year-old kid, you know, and she didn't get a prize in that class, but it is as though she won the national championship, because she wanted her picture with all of her friends in the check. And I mean, that's why we do it, because those are the kids that God selects for us to bless, you know. And it always makes our hearts so happy. It's like, this is why we're doing this. It is emotional and exhausting, and it's hard to stand out there and look at these kids when you're picturing your kid, but we never leave the show feeling like any of it wasn't worth it. It's always worth it.
So I'm very excited to capture that later. Now, one thing you mentioned right before we started filming was the Wednesday night dinners. So yes. I'm curious about that, because I know that happens right here at the horse show. So tell me a little bit about the Wednesday night dinner.
So Wednesday night of Youth Nationals, there are no classes. So they call it whatever, the dark night, or the night that you go just have dinner with your family and it's off. Well, there is a family that shows Arabians. It's the Holloway family, and they own 3 restaurants in town. And so they had approached us one year. They said, we would love to do something for Friends of Vail. You know, what can we do? And so we decided on that Wednesday night, they would open up the restaurant to the horse show people, and anyone that came and ate and said they were Friends of Vail, the restaurant would donate some of the proceeds back to the foundation. And so we've been doing it. This was our 4th year this year, and it was a packed house on Wednesday night. And we advertise it. We put it on the, website. We made little like hand fans that had it on there, because people are hot, and so they fan, and then they look, oh. And so it's kind of like a nice thing where people can go eat a nice dinner and give back to Friends of Vail. And it's all within the horse community, and it's just been such a success. And this year, there was not an empty table in the whole place. And I'm always worried that people are going to show up. Again, it always works out great, and they'll end up sending us a check after the show for Friends of Vail, and it's just such a great thing. People learn about their restaurant, and then they learn about Friends of Vail, and they always give back.
Well, and I imagine you also get to feel included in it all, which I think is really important. Like to give people an opportunity to be a part of it, to have something at stake, to have
Yes.
a moment where they can go and show their support publicly, and have that sense of community, which kind of brings me to, I would say, my last question here, because I know that obviously what you both went through, just tragic. For many people, their absolute worst nightmare. And you both were able to take this and make it into something where Vail will continue to impact hundreds, thousands of people's lives in such a positive way. So I would just ask, for people who might be in a similar situation, or they're going through some sort of just complete devastation and loss, what would you say to somebody who might be in that position right now?
Well, I can say absolutely, above all, we are very strong in our faith. We're a very strong Christian family, and when the morning that Vail passed away, I can just remember thinking to myself, I trust God. I trust him. He's never given me a reason to not trust him. And without our faith and our strength in that area, I don't think we would have made it, I don't know how you get out of bed or put one foot in front of the other if you don't believe that she's in heaven. And she, there is a plan. We can't even understand it. Like when you think about what God knows and what we see, we can't even begin to understand, like, his thoughts are not our thoughts. They're way above our thoughts. And this life we live here is such a blip. And so I guess for anyone else that's going through a tragedy or a loss, for me, it's just been my faith is the only thing that has carried me through. And just trusting that, God is using her. This is part of his plan for her life. And he chose us to be a part of that.
Yeah, and I think in addition to that, we had a community of friends at home that wrapped their arms around us and loved on us, and our horse show friends, our family. And, like Susie said, I really don't know. And statistically, people that go through our situation, even maritally, 8 out of 10 couples never make it because of just the Grand Canyon in your heart, because you never see them again. That's the thing about our situation is, we've never gotten mad. We've never blamed each other. We've never thought we could have done this or we could have done that, because it was out of our control. And the serendipity of that is that it drew us. It drew people to faith in our community. It drew a community together. It was amazing, the place where we live, and we didn't think we'd stay there because we're not from there, either one of us, but we'll never leave now just because of the events that have happened in our life. But we have friends here, and everyone lives in different states, and if anybody goes through this situation, first and foremost, I would tell them to get counseling. Get somebody that can help you through the process, because it's not even easy today.
I imagine at some level it never will be.
It never will go away, because you always in your mind, we talk about it when we see kids run around. I wonder what she would look like today. We watch videos occasionally just to hear her voice, and we're not afraid. Like, I'll cry in front of you or anyone. I I don't care because I love that kid, and I miss her. And it doesn't matter to me, but some days I'm strong. I don't know why I'm bawling today, but I'm having a rough go at this.
You're making me cry.
Sometimes I can get up in front of our, we have benefits and stuff and just rock and roll. And today it hit me today. But that's the way it is, and it's because it's just true love. That's what it is. It never goes away. And we love her. We love her just as much as we did when she was running around here. And I told stories about in 2016, she rolled up to our anvil back there where we were shoeing horses on one of these little scooters. And one of my friends told me later, he said, that's the last memory I have of her. And he said, I'll never forget it. Well, I was telling another horseshoer back there this story, and I just lost it. And I was like, I'm sorry, Dan, but, I'm going to cry for a minute, and then I'll get over it. But we're going to go on from here. But people in our situation, you can't, unless you've been through it, you don't even understand it, because it goes beyond any hurt that you've ever dealt with in your life, losing a child like that. I mean, you're not supposed to lose your children, and they're supposed to outlive you. You hope they do. But with our faith, we believe we'll see her again, and we're just here. And while we're here, we're going to do the best job we can to edify her as the human being she was, the most giving, loving, talented, little squirt that you ever saw. I mean, she was funny. She was the one that would read the jokes off the milk cartons and remember them. And she was always having the joke a day that she read at the lunch, at lunch at school. I'm like, I can't even remember a joke somebody told me 5 minutes ago, and she would come home after school and read it. So she was pretty amazing. So
I do have one more question. With everything that's happened and everything that you've been able to, again, take this and do, what do you think she would say? If she could see all of this right now, what do you think she would say?
She never really wanted to be in the forefront of anything. She would hide behind me, hide between my legs, because the thing about, because we talk about Jade, who's, and Vail, and compare them like parents do, right? Vail's in a time capsule. She left at 9. She left this earth, and so she didn't have to go through puberty or her first boyfriend or kids making fun of her at school. All the things, losing or not winning, or, all of the things that, her sister went through. And, we talk about her a lot like that. I wonder how she would be. I wonder if she would, what she would do if she knew all this was about her, because she'd just get a little smile on her face and kind of give you one of those and go on, because she was a little winner. Like, if you challenged her with something, she was going to do it. She found out that you could get these little ribbons at school if you read books. And the first time she had at school, we went to to the gymnasium, and they gave awards, an award banquet, and other kids were getting awards, and she didn't even know about it. She found out about it, and the next one, she got all of them. Like, she was and she's like just standing up there, but she was never like, she was never someone that was, arrogant. She did it with confidence, but she was always so humble. But I know she's got a big smile on her face, and, she doesn't want it to be all about her, but it is, and she can't do anything about it.
Well, I think that's why it's all about her, is because she did live with so much compassion and empathy, and I think this is all amazing. And so thank you both so much. This has been such a meaningful thing to hear about, and I know our viewers will love it. But before we go, for people who do want to donate, for people who want to support, where should people go? What should they be doing?
So we have a website. It's friendsofvail.com.
And we'll link all this in the information.
Yep.
So.
And you can donate directly through the website. You can contact us through there. Our cell numbers are on there. That's probably the easiest way. And if there's other opportunities, and if they contact us, email us or call us, we can link them up with our benefits that we do, or, they can just, give us a ring and we'll make it happen. Yeah. So.
And the books, where can people find the books?
The books can be bought on barnesandnoble.com and Amazon. There's some other booksellers, but it's all online. But I would suggest barnesandnoble.com, because they're easy and they ship them out quickly.
Perfect. And when can we expect the new book? Do you have a date or?
I'm getting illustrations on the third of the fourth book this week. So they're all rewritten. 2 of them are illustrated. The third one's in the process. It's at this point, it's an artistic process. It's how quickly Britt comes up with the images in her mind and gets them on paper and sends them. So if we can keep rocking and rolling on it, I'm hopeful maybe by the fall or maybe Scottsdale time, we might have a book.
Awesome. Well, definitely keep us updated. I know everyone at Arabian Horse Times is just so in love with you guys and what you do. So
Thank
we
you.
appreciate you guys so much. Y'all
We really appreciate the
above and
support.
beyond.
Yes.
well,
It
we are
means the world.
very happy to do it. Thank you again so much. I know our viewers are going to love this. And yeah,
Thank
have
you.
a good one, guys.
Appreciate it.